Mr. Speaker, this past week, Germany inaugurated its first liquefied natural gas terminal. Germany started construction after the war in Ukraine began on February 24th in order to get off Russian gas. Before Russia's war on Ukraine, Germany had no LNG terminals. It took Germany 194 days to approve and build this new LNG terminal in the North Sea port of Wilhelmshaven. 194 days. And 4 more are on the way shortly. Germany has a stronger set of environmental standards than Canada, and Germany has reduced greenhouse gas emissions more than Canada. Germany is also led by a left-of-center social democratic chancellor, and its Minister of Economic Affairs and Climate Action is a Green Party minister. This government needs to ask itself, how can Germany approve and build a new LNG terminal in 194 days, but it takes a decade or more to approve and build a single LNG terminal in this country?
Revenue neutral. It's not neutral for the taxpayer who will pay thousands of dollars more in the tax than they get back in any rebates, according to the government's own parliamentary budget officer. If the government really wanted to fight greenhouse gas emissions, they'd approve projects that do that. For example, there were 15 LNG projects proposed when this government took office. Not a single one has been built, and the only one that is under construction was approved by the previous Conservative government, and it required subsequent governments exempt it from the carbon tax in order for it to be economical and to speed up its approval by ignoring C-69. Will the government get out of the way and let our projects go ahead to protect the earth?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government bought and will complete the building of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Our government absolutely understands that LNG is an important transition fuel and plays a valuable role for Canada and the world. And I do want to point out that we understand for projects to work, they have to meet environmental standards, and Indigenous people have to be consulted. That's how we're going to get projects in Canada built, including necessary renewable energy projects, Mr. Speaker.
Yep. You're the opposition.
Well, it's true that they have to meet environmental standards. We had real environmental standards under the previous Conservative government, and in fact, the only way that the LNG Canada project in Western Canada went ahead was by exempting it from the new anti-development C-69. And she's right also that First Nations have to be consulted. One of them is an Indigenous grandmother from the Haisla First Nation who told me that LNG Canada and projects like it mean that her autistic grandchild will have the resources for treatment. That means help for First Nations, paychecks for our people, and clean energy for the world. Why won't they get out of the way and let it happen?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know better than to listen to the economic advice of this Conservative leader. So let me tell you about Robert Breedlove. He's a Bitcoin trader who posted, quote, "Central banking is an institution of slavery. Burn it down." The Conservative leader, after that was posted, the Conservative leader appeared on Mr. Breedlove's YouTube channel and said he found it extremely informative. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the Conservative leader needs to publicly disavow those inflammatory comments and apologize to Canadians for his own records.
6 out of 10 Canadian families heat their homes with natural gas, which Canada is refusing to develop. Thousands of dollars more spent on home heating bills for Canadian families this winter, and billions in the hands of warmongers. And to top it all off, they plan on tripling the carbon tax while failing to hit a single emissions target. Instead of hitting Canadians with their punishing tax plan, why not develop clean Canadian energy and give Canadians an environmental plan that actually works?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, today is Friday, and so I want to start with some very good news for hardworking Canadian families. Yesterday night, Bill C-31 received royal. That is good news because it means Canadians struggling to pay their rent will soon be getting checks for $500. That is real help. It also means that Canadian kids under 12 will be able to go to the dentist?
Honourable member for Thornhill.
That's not an answer to my question, so I'm going to try again. There are few countries on Earth that could displace more coal with natural gas than we can. Instead of developing our own resources to actually fight climate change, they are tripling the carbon tax, freezing Canadians in the winter, and starving families so they have to go to food banks. This government keeps the world burning the worst fossil fuels. Canada ranks 58 out of 63 countries on emissions. Wake up, Liberals. This is a tax plan. Canadians know it. Does she?
The Honourable Deputy, the Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for a very important question, actually. Madam Speaker, probably she noticed that just last week, we announced in Canada the largest hydrogen plant in the world, Madam Speaker.
That's great.
And this happened in Edmonton with Air Products, a $1.7 billion investment, Madam Speaker, which will make Edmonton, Alberta, the key place in North America when it comes to hydrogen, Madam Speaker. That's how you build the future.
Excellent work, Francois.
The Honourable member for Thornhill.
Would have built some LNG, anything in the last 7 years. The Germans went to Australia for a 16-year LNG agreement. They went to the UAE, extended their agreement. They bought more from the US. They could have gotten it here from Canada, but the Prime Minister sent the German Chancellor home empty-handed. Then the Finance Minister realized that he had made a mistake. She said that she was going to expedite projects. So I have a few questions for her. Which projects will she expedite? What are the rules? And when will we know?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to again remind my colleague what we did when the German Chancellor was in Canada. Not only we talked about hydrogen, which Canadians have seen on the East Coast and across Canada, but we also signed two important things, Madam Speaker. We signed an MOU with Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz, Madam Speaker, to look at the future and how we can work closer together with our German friends when it comes to industry. And Madam Speaker, in about 2 weeks, I'll be at the board of both Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz to make the case for Canada. We should all work together to make the case for Canada. Thank you.
Excellent work.